Welcome to the Junto Podcast. We are recording episode 29 here, and I am with special guest Breck Ruddick, and you're going to learn a little bit about Breck and why I asked him to be here. But Breck, before I tell your story, tell us a little bit about you. I understand one of the things that we go to church together. Obviously, we have a connection, and you had an opportunity to tell me some interesting things. But Breck was a college quarterback at Delta State and had a very, very, what I would consider nice collegiate career. A lot of people don't get to experience that. So, Breck, tell us a little bit about yourself. I wanted to talk about your experience at Delta, and then we'll get into some other stuff as well. So,
no, absolutely. My name is Breckenridge Collins Ruddick. I'm originally born out of Little Rock. My name is based out of Colorado.
Wow.
Just a little tidbit of information there. Basically, a little kind of backstory. My whole life has been basically revolved around sports and obviously faith as well. But pretty much growing up, I've played every sport I could possibly get involved in, as long as it didn't conflict with any other schedules.
Right.
But very much sports related, and pretty much that. Honestly, I know that sounds very vague, but that has pretty much been my entire upbringing. Has been pretty much just sports and a very strong religious background.
Dude, I love that. And I don't know why I'm just now finding out your full name is Breckenridge. Like, dude, what a strong name. I'm like, my gosh, I think you fit the bill. You look like a Breckenridge.
Thank you.
That's not a common name, but I think it's very fitting. And yeah, man, that's awesome. We talk a little bit about sports, and we did what we call life group here at our church. We did that, and we had an opportunity to talk about some fitness and things of that nature. But tell me a little bit about it, because I want to talk about the college quarterback experience. And the reason I want to is because, when I think about that, I think there are a lot of leadership principles and a lot of things that we can glean from approaching life from a perspective of pressure. There's really, in terms of football, and I know there are some important, well, every position, I guess, is important, but in terms of that key one, you always say, if you don't have a good quarterback, you don't have a team. So tell us a little bit about that experience playing college football and what you learned just in terms of life lessons from that.
Absolutely. So I guess in order for me to start about the pressure and the responsibilities that being a college quarterback, like what that comes with, I would have to start off with like the recruiting process. So being a quarterback in high school and getting recruited, one of the questions that honestly, it doesn't get asked to me, but to my peers, is what kind of character does he have?
Wow.
How does he carry himself when nobody is looking?
Wow.
So I think because of that alone, and you obviously, a coach comes to your school, he talks to your head coach.
Yeah.
They kind of relay information about what kind of person you are, this, that, and the other. But then obviously when the college coach leaves, your high school coach comes up to you, and he naturally is going to tell you what the coach...
How that went.
Yeah, how that went, the whole interaction and all that kind of stuff. So you definitely go into... From that point on, I looked at everything I did, not from my point of view, but from somebody else's point of view.
Wow, that's powerful. Goodness.
So, like, for instance, I wouldn't... So I'm extremely smart. I would not say I applied myself in the classroom as well as I should have. Not
Right.
saying that I was flunking classes or anything like that, but after that conversation, it made me consciously think about, okay, I know grades don't necessarily mean everything to me,
Right.
but it has a direct reflection on my work ethic, my personality, what I value in my life.
Goodness.
So it started right there to let you know just kind of like the pressure of, maintaining what they would call a certain standard.
Absolutely.
so it kind of starts with that, and then fast forwarding, you're at campus. Um, so before the season starts, they give you what they call preseason goals, and it's not accolades that you earn on the field. It's not about stats that you earn on the field.
Right.
It's about stuff that you do in the community.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, the relationships that you build outside of football, not just your teammates.
Exactly.
And then obviously how you carry yourself out in the public eye.
Wow.
But you know, that kind of lays the ground rules
Yeah.
of how you need to carry yourself. Now, I will say it's a little bit different for a quarterback than it is like a wide receiver, because me being a quarterback, you are the one who is going to be out in the public eye the most.
That's it.
You're going to be talking to the people more than anybody else. You're going
That's
to be in
right.
contact with, like the Make-A-Wish foundations. They usually, I'm not trying to say this in a bad way, but they usually don't ask for the offensive lineman or the
Exactly.
tight end. They usually ask for the quarterback or somebody like the linebacker on
Yeah.
defense, somebody that's of high, I guess, like popularity.
Well, absolutely.
And so that's another thing on top of it, because just thinking of that situation in general, you don't want to make yourself look like you're like above anybody,
Right.
which
Right.
in that setting, in most settings, they do put you at a higher pedestal than others.
Yeah. Yeah. The quarterback is typically, when you think of the team, the front man, yeah, that's the guy leading the team.
Mhm.
It's the quarterback.
But pretty much, it's, if you could think about it, it would be basically, the way I would try to explain it is, think about how Jesus had to maintain the perfect image.
That's right.
Throughout his entire existence, and it's not to that severity,
Right.
but it's definitely similarities, because people don't view you as a normal person.
Yeah. That's it.
Because you are a person that is, talented at that specific sport. Because, I mean, the way people tell me all the time, like, that I'm extremely talented, and, I'm doing a lot of things that a lot of people can't do. But I look at, Jeff and all the people who play the band. I can only dream of doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's just about what perspective are you looking at it from.
That's it. And you're operating in your wheelhouse. That's one thing. And you said some good stuff in there. One of the things that you said that I think that we can take away, and I think that applies, is that you said, I didn't look at myself from my perspective. In other words, you looked at yourself and you had to view yourself the way you wanted other people to view you. I remember I had a job years ago, and one of the things they went through this leadership training, they always said, manage the perception. In other words, and it's not that you're putting on a show, and it's not that you're being fake or anything like that, but that ties into what you're saying, because you do have to be aware of how other people view you,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be, when we're talking about pressure and expectation. Yeah, I know that there's a flip side of that too, because that can be a little bit of a, not burden, but it can be hard to live up to that at times. You know what I
absolutely.
mean? So I really like what you said about that. And then I think that's probably eye-opening for a lot of people, because when we watch college football or college sports, we don't know what these young men and women have done to get there, like the recruiting process and how they're dealing with the high school coaches, and then you're hoping that you've made a good enough impression with the high school coach that they'll give you a good recommendation to the college. So,
Absolutely.
man, strong life age, but I'm thinking particularly about young people that might be in that college age that are looking to start their lives and careers, man, manage that perception. View yourself the way you want others to view you. So,
Absolutely.
man, I love that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about being in the game itself. Dude, I was in band, so that was in high school, though, and I didn't finish it all the way through, but I know just in high school, like the hype and stuff. Tell us a little bit about the game itself. How would you prepare for the game, or what were some things that you would do to kind of hype yourself up?
So, before the games, I would always, because I'm a very, my motor, when it gets running, it's
You're
up
there, full throttle.
Full throttle, exactly. It's 0 to 100,
Yeah.
as the saying would be. But so like before the game, I would do everything in my power to stay as calm as possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're thinking about like certain plays that you've ran in the practice. You're thinking about the defense, the concepts that they're going to be running against certain plays. Just kind of playing that out in your head.
Right.
And you always, I know this sounds weird, but you always prepare for something bad to happen.
Yeah.
Because in a
Wow.
game, something bad is always going to happen. You can bank on it.
Wow, dude. Yeah.
So you kind of have to mentally prepare for that, and then you have to mentally prepare on my side. All right, when something does go bad, how do I rally the guys together?
Wow.
Because not all the time does the coach, what he's saying, resonate with the players.
Yeah.
And depending on what he is saying, he might tune every single player out. So therefore, it's up to one of the leaders, not necessarily just the quarterback, but one of the key leaders on the team to get the guys rallied up and come together and let's face this obstacle as a team, and as a team we can defeat this.
Yeah.
But as one, we will fall.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to think about how, and I mean, more times than not, you're kind of making up situations in your head, because you truly never know what situation is going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, game time starts. I'm like a completely different person.
You're there. You're in the zone.
I am in the zone. If I probably couldn't get my eyes as wide as they are like on game day.
Yeah.
But if I could do this the entire time, that's what it's like.
Dude, that's funny. Yeah.
It like that wild, crazy, like a wild man from Borneo look.
Yeah.
But
You get that rage, man.
exactly. But I will say, for me, I always had to get hit. I know that sounds weird being a quarterback. They're like, why would you want to get hit? Like, that's the last thing a quarterback's supposed to be doing.
Right.
So, like, I would always ask my coach, first play of the game, let me run the ball. Let me run it up the middle. Let me get hit by, like, 4 or 5 people. I know that sounds crazy, but that way I can, all right.
That wakes you up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything kind of slows down, because if not, one thing that I found out in my college career is if I don't get hit the first couple drives, I stay at this.
Amped up.
Amped up the entire time. So every decision looks like I'm making it a million miles an hour. Every throw is coming out like at Mach 12. So like that's...
It's very interesting. I'm thinking about this from like even a psychological perspective. So what is it, just the anticipation that you feel like, well, once I've gotten hit, I know that like this has already happened, so I can calm down? Or is it like what is it behind it? Just
So I think it's like a multitude of things. I think one of them is you're so excited, you're so amped up, like ready to play.
Yeah.
I think part of getting hit, it's weird, kind of brings you back to reality.
Gotcha.
Kind of like settles you down a little bit.
Wow.
Or like wakes you up, kind of. Yeah. Bring you back to reality is more of like the term that I would use, because that's kind of what it seems like. Like you get out there, everything's moving a million miles an hour. You get, say, it takes like a couple plays for you to get hit. Then you get hit, and it's like everything slows down.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is probably, I think the game of football in general, for me, you think of football, you think of contact.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think part of it for me was I felt like I had to get some type of contact in order to me to feel like I was in the game.
Yeah.
Like actually not just like a bystander, just like
That's
being
it.
one of the guys who's just standing, handing the ball off, and I'm just kind of going through the motions.
Right.
It kind of got me into the game. Like,
Man, that's a trip. See, you've entered the mind of a football player. It's because when you're watching the game, of course, we support the young men and women. I love college football. I think it's more exciting than NFL. But
I would agree.
But just to hear it from this perspective, because to a spectator, obviously it's a game. You're watching your team and you're rooting for them, and you're hoping they do well, but you're not compartmentalizing what each individual player is going through, right? Like
No,
you don't know
absolutely.
their zone, you don't know their ritual, pregame ritual, you don't know their their mid-game ritual. You don't know,
And there are mid-game rituals. I'm just
See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying?
just
Like, that's a trip, man. But I think that's a lot of life, man. I always bring it back because this podcast is always done from a perspective of faith. So I always listen for those principles. And you said some real interesting things there too that I think apply just to real life, and that is, even the concept of being hit. In other words, I'm thinking about life and how life can deal us wake-up calls sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And we might be seeing things from one perspective, but then you get that contact. You're like, okay, wait a minute, let's take a step back. Let's calculate our thoughts and bring everything back into perspective. So, man, I think that's awesome. So, is there anything that stands out in your mind? Maybe a favorite game or a special? Maybe you just had the game of your life, man. What?
So honestly, I would say my most memorable game was when I first got to Delta State. It was our fourth game of the season.
Yeah.
Fourth game of the season, because we had 2 games and then a bye week, and then it was our quote unquote fourth week. So it was quote unquote our fourth game of the season.
Right.
But so we were playing at a school called West Georgia, and if you know anything about, not that I'm expecting you to, but if you know anything about like Delta State and West Georgia, that's a huge rivalry. It's gone back like couple, at least 10 years.
Wow.
As far as since my head coach has been there, and they've always kind of gone back and forth on who's going to win, and then usually whoever wins that game up until, the last 3 years since I've been gone, whoever wins that game usually goes on to win the GSC, the conference that they're in. So it holds a lot of value.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when I got there, Delta State had not beaten West Georgia in 4 years.
Wow.
And when I say they were getting blown out, they were getting embarrassed.
Wow.
To the point where my head coach's job was going to be on the line that year if we lost again to that team specifically.
Yeah, exactly.
So leading up to that game, we were ranked, I want to say 8th in the country, and they were ranked 5th. It was somewhere around there. We were both under the top 10. So we go into the game, and I've been preparing all week for them to play a certain type of stunt. I'm not really going to go into great detail about it, but
you were expecting it.
So first drive of the game, it's completely different looks. Like what I've been seeing on film and what I've been practicing for, they're not going together at all.
Yeah,
so
you're like, man, we've prepared for this, but they're throwing me way off. Yeah.
Exactly. So you go, it's like it would feel like you studied for a test.
Yes.
And you really studied, not like one of those you kind of Nah, I
Yeah,
studied a little
yeah.
bit. No, like one of those you spent all week, hours studying, and then you get to the test, and it's like the first question is something you don't recognize,
Wow.
and then as you go down, you're like, wait, we didn't learn this. We didn't
Exactly.
learn.
Yeah. I've never
Wait,
seen this in my life.
so it's
Yeah.
like, all right, well, I guess I need to try to decipher this on the fly.
Wow.
And so, the first series was really rough. I'm pretty sure we ended up losing like 20 yards.
Wow.
Like we did not gain a single yard
Yeah.
that drive. So we go back to the sideline, and I'm talking about it to my coach, and I'm like, Coach, they're not giving us the same look. Like nothing
Totally
is
different.
the same.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't worry, go back out there. We'll just kind of play it by ear and adjust accordingly. Well, go back out there again.
That's not very helpful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we go out there again, and it's a read option play. So
Right.
basically, you're reading the defensive end. If he crashes down the line of scrimmage or moves laterally, I pull it and keep it. If he moves upfield, I hand it off.
Right.
So in this case, he comes upfield, so I hand it off. My running back runs up, runs through the middle of the line of scrimmage, and a defensive end punches the ball out. So one play drive, it's over.
Dang.
So they get the ball at like
Yeah.
the 35-yard line, end up scoring. So that puts us down 7-0. That basically snowballed, and so by halftime it was 24-0.
Wow. Yeah.
And the thing about Delta State is fans are a lot like every other fan. They're diehards.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're with you if you're up.
But boy,
They are not with you if you are
if
down.
you're down, they're gonna let you know.
Exactly. So I mean, you have your own fans saying, I could play quarterback better than
Oh,
you, or
dude.
this, that, and the other,
Wow.
and you're like, all right, try to not let it phase you. So we go in the locker room, we talk it out, talk about schemes and stuff like that. Come back out. Kind of make a long story short, we rally off 28 points, and in the third quarter.
Wow.
So we hold them
In the third?
in the
Wow.
third. So we scored 28 points in the third, and I wouldn't say there was anything spectacular that I was doing, like personally. I was just staying within myself, playing within
Right.
myself, which in sports I feel like you hear that a lot, playing within yourself.
Yeah.
But basically just giving what the defense gave me and relying on my playmakers to make plays and stuff like that. So basically, long story short, the reason why that game meant so much to me is because after the game, I got a lot of credit for it.
Yeah. Wow.
But one of the things that I took pride about that game and why it's still one of my favorite games to this day is because as a collective group, we came back as a team. It's hard, and I know like you see it a lot in sports, comebacks.
Yeah.
But I don't really think people understand how much togetherness that takes. Like,
Man.
literally, when I say all 11 people need to be working in rhythm at the same time, with the same mission in
Come on.
mind.
Unified.
Absolutely.
Man.
It truly does. It makes a huge difference.
Man.
It makes a 24-point lead look like
Yeah.
just
We got
one
this.
touchdown.
Well, and it's crazy because, and this is exactly why I wanted to have you on. I think there are so many life lessons you can glean from football. For one, the teamwork, and I've been on a team where everybody is operating on all cylinders. Like you feel it, you feel the energy. You know that everybody's gelling. You're being productive, and man, that is a good feeling. And it is. Did y'all win, by the way?
We did.
Okay.
So no, that's actually why it was one of my favorite
Yeah,
games.
yeah,
Is
I think-
because it was one of the times. Kind of add a little bit of backstory to that. That team. So like that was the year that I went to Delta State.
Right.
in that year, we had, I don't want to exaggerate, but I really do believe it was around 28 to 32 transfers.
Wow. Out of or into?
Into.
Oh, wow.
So when I say we've spent
Not very much.
3 months with each other
Yeah.
prior to playing, and the thing about like preseason, fall camp, stuff like that in sports, you go against each other a lot.
Wow.
So, like I know people see it all the time, but like fights in practice.
That happened.
Fall camp, there's a fight every day. I don't care what university you're at, it is happening.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's 100 in the Delta.
Yeah.
It's 112 minimum.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's 80% humidity.
Good. Yeah.
And
yeah.
people are just constantly hitting each other,
That's
hitting
it.
each other, hitting each other. And I mean, nobody enjoys getting hit. It would
Yeah.
be basically the equivalent if somebody was constantly like punching you in the side,
Yeah.
and you were like, all right, stop.
Exactly.
Like it's really starting to get to me now. And then like,
You're getting madder and madder each time. Like it's like, ugh.
Yeah, but like in normal circumstances, you wouldn't be doing that in the first place. But it's because of like the setting that you're in.
Right.
Oh, you're going to keep hitting each other. Like
Yeah.
it's an inevitable situation that is going to keep happening. So you are going to see conflict every day. But like the reason why I say that is I've seen it to where that has destroyed teams.
Yeah. Wow.
And where it has made teams stronger.
Yeah. Yeah.
That year specifically was probably one of the most fights we've ever had in a fall camp. But we were that team, and I'm not saying that this was like the key factor, but that team specifically was very Christ-based.
Oh wow. Awesome.
It was. We prayed every day before we
Come on,
walked out
dude.
on the field, and
That's
we
right.
prayed every day before we walked off the field.
That's awesome.
We didn't just do it just so people could see us.
Yes.
It was an actual. That was our decision. That was
Yes.
our idea.
Right.
At first, it was probably just to help unify some of the guys, but you could tell by the end of camp that everybody was genuinely not we weren't praying for practice. That's not like what we're praying for. We're praying for like our family members back home, not ours specifically, but our teammates.
Exactly.
Really investing in not just them personally, but everything about them, their
Man.
background, where they came from.
Exactly.
Because you have to think about it. Everybody's coming in from a different everybody's coming in from a different state, different town. Everybody's away from home.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be a few people that are from the actual like town, like where the
Right.
university is, but everybody's away from home.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm saying everybody deals with it, but it's not rare to hear somebody struggling back at home.
Oh man.
And then watching it have that effect on our teammate, which which really turned into our brother.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, I know y'all know this, but like it's just like with church, the more you pray with each other, the more you get to know each other, the more you feel. It's not more like friendship; it's more like family. It's just an extended part of your family,
and that's why we even say church family. You know, and man, that's an awesome testimony. Everything we do around here is from a perspective of faith, but man, I think that is so important for young people, and the fact that you guys did it on your own accord. I know you weren't looking for recognition, and that's the thing. I know sometimes a lot of people can scoff at that idea, thinking it's for attention. It's not, man. It's when you're in Christ, it is a genuine relationship, and the
absolutely.
fact that you guys were pulling together as a team and doing that, I mean, there's no question that it had an impact on that season, on that group of individuals. And man, when you're flowing out of that, even if there's conflict, you know that there's still love there.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like you might
Exactly.
get mad and you might have an argument, but deep down, okay, that's my brother. That's my boy. I got him, and no matter what it is, and that changes everything. It reminds me of the covenant relationship. Even on staff around here, that's how that's our perspective. We may not always agree on everything, but we know we got each other's backs no matter
Absolutely.
what. So, man, again, another life lesson for football, which is why I thought it was really important to have you on. And let's talk about, if you want to. You had an incident surrounding football that when you first told me about it, like I was, it took me a while to process that. I was like, man, that is crazy that it happened to him. But
It's still crazy to think about at times, just because now it's been so long, but yet still holds so much power.
yeah,
Because like I know when I talked about it at Life Group, I got really emotional, and I remember going home and thinking, I've told that story
yeah,
thousands of times, thousands,
Yeah.
literally thousands, and I've never had it affect me
wow,
like that.
goodness,
And I still don't necessarily know why it affected me that way. But for kind of got sidetracked.
yeah.
But
No,
no, but yeah, I don't really know why it affected me that way, because I've talked about it 1,000 times,
yeah.
literally.
Well, and sometimes things that are like dear to us, or maybe we don't even know how much they've affected us, even if we've talked about it. Maybe it just is presented in a new light, or we really have a revelation of, man, this thing really did cause me a little bit more trauma than I thought. But if you're okay talking about it, Breck,
No, absolutely.
so well, I want to let you tell the story, but I just want to, real quick, from what I remember, long story short, and I want you to give the details. You were house sitting. Well, just tell us about the dog.
Okay.
Tell us about the dog.
So the dog's name is Luca. Um, it was an Australian Shepherd, extremely sweet,
Yeah.
extremely playful. To me, it was your typical Australian Shepherd.
Yeah.
Um,
And this was your neighbor's dog?
my neighbor's dog.
Gotcha.
So I lived in a studio apartment at the time, and the woman living next to me was a nursing student,
Right.
and I noticed she was always gone. And like I said earlier in the Life Group, I've been around dogs my entire life.
Right.
Love them. Anytime I can ever be around one, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And so I just noticed that she was gone all the time. So I offered that I would if I could dog sit. She said yes.
Wow.
Everything was fine. I think that started in like May or June or July, like when I moved into the place.
Gotcha.
Can't remember exactly when it happened, but so like 3 months go by, 3-4 months go. Well, yeah, 3. 3 months go by, and I've built a relationship with this dog that I'm not going to say the dog was more so mine than it was hers, because it was very much her dog.
Right.
But I had taken part ownership
Sure.
of just because I had grown an attachment to it. But so one night, it was on a Sunday. I'm sitting there watching TV on my couch, and Luca is asleep on my bed. No big deal. He's done it a million times.
Exactly.
So it was around 11 o'clock, and I was getting ready. Like, I was getting sleepy, so I'm getting ready for bed. And so I go to stick my hands under him. I didn't want to move him off the bed. I just wanted to kind of scoot him over.
Exactly.
Because he was sleeping on my spot in the bed. I know that sounds kind of weird.
Yeah, no,
but,
I get it.
So I just barely get my hands under him, and like I said, I don't know if I still don't know this day if I startled him, made him mad, or like what it was. But when I stuck my hands under him, he woke up. and immediately latched onto my hand.
That's so wild, man.
It is.
Mm.
So, I'm about to say all this like it was going very slowly, but it was processed like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I see him biting my hand, and so my first initial reaction was to punch him in the side of the head. And so when I punch him in the side of the head, it phased him like very minuscule. Like you could tell, like it really didn't even. He probably really didn't even feel it.
Right.
It was more of like the momentum that kind of caught him off guard.
Exactly.
So I hit him once, and he starts to pull away. So I can't see through my hand at this point, but I can see that it's starting to rip.
Wow.
So I punch him again. This time it's more towards the jaw area, and when I hit him, he kind of stumbles a little bit, but is still very much locked onto my hand.
That is wild.
So I punch him the second time. He's still locked on, but now he starts shaking. So now he's actually ripping my hand more to where I can actually kind of see through it. So I punch him again in the same spot, and that's where I ended up breaking his jaw, which is the only reason why
he let
go.
Right.
But like I was saying, as soon as it happened, as soon as my hand got dislodged from his mouth and he was away, we both looked at each other with this.
What just happened?
That we didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
So even though my hand is bleeding, not saying this to make myself sound like a hero, because y'all know it gets messy near the end. But so instead of wrapping up my hand, I go grab the towel because I'm seeing him with a broken jaw, and I'm thinking, all right, that's got to get fixed. Like that's got to get put back in place. I can't just have it hanging all over the place.
Yeah.
So grab a towel and I stick it through his mouth and then around just to hold it in place. And I say this just to kind of solidify that we both knew that this was a mistake.
Right.
He was allowing me, after I just punched him in the mouth and broke his jaw, he was allowing me to put a towel through his mouth.
Exactly.
And secure it. And I know it was hurting him for me to do that. Like, I know. Because there's just so I get that taken care of. I tie it so it's not going to come loose or anything like that. At this point in time, I have flip-flops on. I do not have my phone, but I have my keys. So I go downstairs. Or my bad, I don't have my keys. So I go downstairs. I have them on a leash. Get down there. Realize I don't have my keys or my phone. So I wrap him around a tree just so I can go back upstairs. Because I lived 3 stories up, I wasn't trying to bring him back upstairs, bring him back down, all with a
wrapped jaw. Yeah.
So I go upstairs, I run up there, grab my phone, grab my keys, run down. As I'm walking towards the tree, he sees me and runs towards the tree to meet me at the tree. Well, me not thinking clearly at this point in time, I had a retractable leash on him.
Mm-hmm.
When he got towards the tree, I had locked it out, so the slack had loosened up. So he was able to run around the tree. It ends up closing, like it unlocks. Goes, wraps around the tree, or unravels around the tree and slaps him on the butt. And he is gone.
Takes off.
And I look...
As if it couldn't get any worse.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I look down because I'm about to take off, and I look down and I'm like, what a terrible time to be wearing flip-flops.
Right.
What a literal terrible time to be wearing flip-flops. So I do run after him for like a quick second, but then, logically I come back to reality and I'm like, barefoot or not, I'm not catching this dog. So at this point it's like closer to 12, closer to midnight.
Wow, dude.
And so he takes off, and he is mainly black. Like he was a mainly black coated dog. He had a little bit of white on his face with brown and like blonde, and a little bit of white and brown and blonde on his chest, and just kind of like scattered. So it was extremely hard to see him at night, period, even when he was only 15 feet away.
Absolutely.
So I get in my truck, I start driving, and I drive around till 4:30 looking for him, and I cannot find him at all. And I've done this twice now. Even when I told you in life group, I went over it. I did let the owner know right away.
Yeah.
What had happened. I did not hold anything out. I was very upfront. Told her that the dog bit me. It wasn't intentional, but the dog wouldn't let go, so I ended up punching it. I even disclosed. I didn't know exactly what all was wrong. I just know the dog had a broken jaw.
Yeah.
So I did say that. So I send that text out like not long after it happens, because I was telling her that I was going to the hospital. So I stay out till 4:30, and I look down at my watch, and I'm like, now why I was thinking about this, I have no idea. But I was like, oh wow, I have workouts in an hour and a half, and I'm like, looking at it now, I'm like, Breck, workouts are not serious. Like in that whole situation, the bigger picture here is there's a incident that needed to be handled, and the number one, the dog needed to be found.
Wow.
So
You stayed up all night looking for the dog.
literally.
Wow, man.
So I ended up going to workouts. They stitch up my hand.
At workouts. You never went to the hospital.
At workouts. You know what's funny, and I didn't say this, but the reason why I didn't go to the hospital is because I didn't want my coach finding out about it, because I knew my athletic trainer, he was going to keep it between me and him.
Right.
And because it wasn't my throwing hand, it's not important for anybody to really know about. I can just throw a glove on and nobody knows the difference. So Monday rolls around, I go to workouts. I come back from workouts around like 8:30.
Yeah.
And I still have not heard, seen anything from the dog. So I go back out, look again, and I was out for like roughly 2 hours, and I got a call from the vet saying that they had picked the dog up.
How did they have your number?
So they got it from the owner of the dog.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. Because I was the last person to be around the dog, I was the one who I was second in line to know about it. But when the dog gets to the vet, she calls me and is like, "What did you do to my dog? Like, you said all you did was break his jaw. You did way more than that. You had to have hit him with something other than your hand." And I was like, no. What I said last night, I get it. I was, freaking out, but that was exactly everything that happened.
Exactly.
So, practice that week. We go play Kansas State that weekend. So go throughout the whole week. I do tell the owner of the dog that I will voluntarily pay for the vet bills, no matter how much it costs, because I felt bad.
Right.
Even to this day, I still feel bad, because it's not like the dog was doing anything malicious or intentionally.
Well, and you weren't either, though. You were simply trying to get the dog off of you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like you were hitting the dog just to hit it.
No, exactly. It's just I don't know. As emotional as people are about their animals,
yeah,
I can relate to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you don't want to see an animal hurting. You don't want to see an animal injured. I mean, I feel like that's just not something people
Yeah.
necessarily want to see, no matter what their moral code is. I just think hurting something in general
Yeah.
usually isn't something that a lot of people are into.
Right.
Hunting is a little bit different, but just like watching an animal get beat
Yeah.
is rough.
It is.
And so like that, even though I know it wasn't malicious or anything like that, I still feel bad.
Absolutely.
Just because like I know the dog didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
But so like I said, I had volunteered to pay the vet bill, and everything was fine up until the Friday when I paid the last vet bill. So she had kind of been toying with me that week about how she was going to take it to the media and all of that. And I wasn't saying this because I was a football player. Because I don't want people to, like, when they're hearing this, I don't want them to think like that. It wasn't because of me being a football player that I didn't want it to be known. It was because the way she was wording it in order for me to get in the most trouble as possible.
Right.
So I was just asking her, please don't do this to me, because it's not like what I did was, I didn't do that on purpose. I didn't just see the dog and was like, all right, I'm just going to lay into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on top of that, like I said at Life Group, I had worked so hard to get where I was at.
Yeah.
And it meant so much to me at that point in time, because I felt like, and I told y'all this then, football was the only thing that I felt like that was my only identity in life. Like,
wow.
Like, yes, I had faith in, like, yes, I was smart and I was successful in other things, but when people ask me like what I did, I play football.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not Breck Ruddock, the guy who goes to college to be a physical therapist, or I'm not Breck Ruddock who's trying to be a pilot.
Yeah.
Like Bailey in Life Group.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, I strictly identified myself as
A football player.
Breck,
Yeah.
the football player. And basically because that had been my dream my entire life is why I felt like that's why I felt like football was my identity.
Yeah.
So like I was just saying, that basically is just, please don't take this away from me, because I've worked so hard to get where I'm at. I'm finally, because like I told y'all, I started as a true freshman but then got hurt. That was my actual, like, real freshman, kind of sin.
Was it.
Yeah, like that was my kind of claim to fame if I was going to have it. And I just felt like I deserved, like I felt like I didn't deserve to have that incident overshadow all that I had worked for. But
did she end up? So she ended up.
So she actually did not. What she did, because here's the deal about it, which I still I could have, but I didn't. So she knew if she posted the post about me, which said what it said, that she would have been directly responsible for the slander and defamation of character.
Yeah.
And she knew that.
Exactly.
Now, whether she wanted to admit that publicly, she hasn't, but there's only one, in my mind, there's only one reason why you do that. So she actually had one of her friends make the Facebook post. So she tells me that she's not going to make a Facebook post and this, that, and the other. And so Friday comes and I pay the final bill. Not even 2 minutes after I pay the bill, we leave to drive to Manhattan, Kansas, which is a 4.5 hour drive from Springfield. In the 4.5 hours that I was on the bus, I watched that Facebook post get shared over 150,000 times.
Wow.
And so
Painting you basically as an animal, a dog abuser or something, right?
So it basically started off I mean, I don't remember exactly what all it said, but it basically started off as, first of all, the guy's name is Breck. He's 6'4", weighs 225 pounds, plays college football. So, you're painting a picture for a big human being, a big, strong human being. Because if you hear a football player, you don't think skinny as a twig.
Yeah.
I mean, as skinny as I am, I was still considered big.
Yeah.
Or not maybe big, but strong. Like, I looked strong. So that didn't help. Everybody just immediately jumps on football players having anger issues, and then that directly correlating into doing what I did.
Wow. So this went viral basically, like in a matter of hours.
And so I'm sitting there watching it blow up, and honestly, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Like, I honestly cannot believe that this is getting the attention that it's getting. I'm like,
exactly, dude.
I don't mean this in a bad way, but I mean, people are actually falling for this.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm watching people share it, and some of the people that were sharing were people that I knew, not from college, from back home, like here. So it's like, I know what kind of person I am. So why are you?
That hurts.
Yeah.
Man.
So that kind of takes you back and make you think, well, how really? And I didn't say this in life group, but it makes you think, like, how was I carrying myself back in the day? Like, did I carry myself in such a way that people perceived me as, someone who quick to anger, short temper, very irrational with decision making, stuff like that. And then on top of that, just, having anger issues.
Yeah.
Which I will say, I probably had anger issues when I was younger, but it was more like me just being disciplined as a kid.
But man, God, I know that had to hurt, to be, and we don't, I would love to recap every detail, but dude, just what you've been through, I can't imagine. And to see something, you want to go viral, but when you do, you don't want it to be for something that is not painted in the right way. That's not all the way true.
Very true.
And, that happened to you, and you had to carry that. And I know that's something that God is, walking, still providing healing for you on that. And I hope, maybe somebody that's out there is going to listen to this. Maybe you have been that person that's been lied on or painted in a inaccurate light. And it does happen to all of us at some point, but it may not be on this degree. And when you told us this in Life Group, I could not believe. Didn't you say that even PETA was like at one of your games?
So the Kansas State game, because that was actually the last game that I ever. That's the last game I ever dressed up for Missouri State. That's the last game I ever stepped on a field.
Wow.
With Missouri State. But at halftime, PETA had put up a infomercial, or however they want to call it, like on the billboard, basically bashing me about, nothing has been filed on me yet, but PETA has already labeled me as an animal abuser.
Exactly.
That's
which, crazy, man.
Blew my mind. But that entire game, people were yelling various and sundry of things at me, referencing to animals just in general, not just dogs.
Wow.
But how I probably let my dogs back at home
Oh goodness.
Yeah, yeah, never mind.
Right.
It got pretty nasty and it got pretty personal.
Yeah.
I will say that, but PETA did get involved at the Kansas State game.
Wow.
But yeah,
Man,
that was
we're super sorry you had to go through that, and you know, I don't want to make you relive that, but I know that God has and will continue through this story to help people, and that's why I wanted to kind of share this, is that maybe you're that person, and if this can encourage you, I wish I had time to go into everything, but I can't imagine what you went through, and just thank God you're on the other side of that now, though.
No,
you
absolutely.
know, and that God brought you through that. When you first told me that, like I said, we were all just, and it hurts, you know, when a friend tells you that they were done that way and for something to go viral. But again, we wanted to encourage you. Breck, I appreciate your time today, man.
No, not a problem.
You know, we talked about football and some leadership and applying those life lessons to, and then the incident of that happened. But if we can learn anything through this, it's, man, trust God through it.
Oh,
absolutely. You know, persevere. And we may not always, in the moment when we feel like we're in the middle of the turmoil, we may not understand that, but we have to trust that God is going to get us through it. So, awesome stuff, man. I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me.